So there's been a lot of buzz about this whole Pluto going back into Capricorn, where it really has been since you've felt it since 2008. It officially went in 2009. And but you felt it in 2008. It's such a slow moving planet that the impact it has on the way you feel in your life, you can feel it coming. So you felt its presence in Aquarius even before it went into Aquarius. And you're still feeling the Aquarius, but you're also feeling the Capricorn. You're feeling both. So if you feel like the world's really divided right now, or you're really torn in two different directions, that's the thing. That's the big shift that's happening somewhere in your life, and maybe multiple areas of your life. You may feel of two minds. And I've been talking about this in other places and other forecasts, because Pluto's not operating all by itself. It's operating with all this other stuff that's going on. And so while Pluto's doing its thing, and it definitely is we're seeing the final last breath of Pluto in Capricorn for a long, long time, because it does move so slowly. So, it's this last gasp. And while, if you look back to 2008, 2009, 2010, and what really got like kind of swept away in your life during that time, and then what came in, you'll see just how much your life has changed as a result of those years. And it probably, again, was probably not just one area of life, but it's been impacting you on many levels because it's not operating all by itself. Hopefully, in the sense that one can learn in one's lifetime, one can learn that one can regenerate. So you being the one in this case, you have learned hopefully that you can get knocked down and stand back up. You can feel like there's loss and then rebuild. You can do some long-term planning that pays off. So something you were strategizing in that time frame, like this is how I can see a future here. It could have been a career path. It could have been a relationship path. It could have been anything really. Having kids, buying a car, buying a house, changing, moving from one country to another or one state to another. It really is all areas of life. And it depends on also how what age you were and where it's hitting your chart as to where you felt it most. But you felt it. And that's what people are feeling now. If it feels big, it is. It's big, what's happening now. It's also Pluto's operating so closely with Uranus and Neptune, and temporarily around its passage back into Capricorn, it's operating closely with Venus, which is good. So, and actually, as it moves back into Capricorn, it's very well aspected. It really is. It's trine Venus. It's trine Uranus. It's sextile Neptune. So these are actually good, goodish transits. Now, does it mean that everything's going to be great? Probably not. It's Pluto, but is this, like, given that it's going back into Capricorn, is this a pretty good lineup? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, to have Venus positioned right there, to have Uranus in retrograde. We've got a lot of retrogrades going on. So there's a lot of returning to this scene of I don't want to say crime, although it depends on your life, but returning to kind of a reflection on your life. The things, it's a great time right now. And we do have this new moon playing into this. It's a great time to really put to rest this last era. You really have come so far, and the past will not repeat, but you may feel, you're not wrong to feel like there's a risk of the past repeating or the past is coming back to haunt you in some way. It's just, it's the kind of cycle we go through where the past does come up for reflection. You have opportunities in life to do things differently. When similar situations arise, you can see how far you've come, hopefully. I think most people, you can see how much you've grown, how much you've changed, how much you've learned. All of this is there. Hopefully spiritually too, there's like this big spiritual component here, and also in love and the way you deal with others, or just relationships. How far have you come in your relationships to really anybody? It could be love. It could be, how you deal with your colleagues, your bosses, the people who work for you, clients, customers, um, how you deal with neighbors, kids, pets, it just depends on your chart. But this shows definitely the the ability to see how your relationships have been impacted. And Venus is right there in Libra, and in this nice trine. Um, so it's a really cool chart, I think. Uh, Like Saturn, Pluto can leave a gift by the door, so to speak, as it exits stage, whatever, right or left, whatever direction it's going. Well, it's kind of stage left on the chart. So, but it's like standing in the doorway, and then in many ways you're standing in the doorway. You're standing on like 1 foot here, 1 foot here, and you're about to decide to move definitively in a certain direction, but you're still kind of hinged there on the threshold. As is our country, the country I live in, the United States. There's this bizarro threshold we're on right now. This is cuckoo, but here we are. You may find in your life it's not quite as cuckoo, although maybe some of you, but there's this interesting threshold that you stand on. 1 foot here, 1 foot there, and you're about to move definitively in a new direction. And this will be playing out over the time between September and November, and maybe into, because this is such a long-term, slow-moving transit. You may feel this through the end of the year and into the beginning of next year, when there's this whole new wave of breath of fresh air, really. Aquarius being an air sign. And yeah, it's like out with the old and with the new for good, and kind of putting to rest the past, anything that was disturbing and upsetting and grief driven or loss driven. It's kind of being able to put things like, morbid, it's Pluto, so morbid phrases are coming into my mind, you know, but I'm speaking metaphorically, although, there are small instances, it's literal, but metaphorically, it's, laying the dead to rest, putting things in the ground, covering them with salt, and just kind of burying the past. But you have a chance to do that, just like with the burial of, someone you love. You're treating it with respect. You're honoring the time that was. You're honoring the you that existed in that era, but also recognizing that that is now gone. That is now laid to rest, and you're moving on in this completely new way that has a surprise element because of Aquarius, but also this aspect to Uranus. There's this surprise, but we've got this Libra Venus thing going on. Um, and then Neptune thrown in. So there's some mystery and some surprise here that is, in many cases, unexpectedly wonderful. And so I think some of the uproar about Pluto going back into Capricorn is maybe a fear that it's the fear drummed up by Pluto, and also this kind of like a post-traumatic stress response to these feelings that are coming up may harken back to 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011. This time frame was, Pluto coming in like a wrecking ball, wrecking some things in your life in that time frame. And some of that PTSD is coming up for people, I think. And I can see why astrologers are reacting to it as well. And it depends on how you've lived your life, the choices you've made. Pluto's not going to leave a gift by the door for the people who have not learned the lessons of Pluto. What are the lessons of Pluto, you might ask? Well, Pluto has this cyclical, like going into the dark, coming back up into the light, but not just mechanically, although you could mechanically do it. The point of the Pluto cycle, the sort of Persephone cycle that is Pluto, this way of framing it, is that things go dormant, you have loss, and then you can regenerate, and you learn how to regenerate and become resilient, hopefully without going into the darkness of Pluto or bringing the darkness of Pluto out into the world. How would you do that? Well, by committing crimes, by hurting people, by being devious and deceptive, and inflicting harm on yourself and others. So if you decided in 2008 or 2009 you're going to go into a life of crime, then, Pluto, the gift that Pluto leaves by the door is more of a karmic one. But if you've been trying to improve your life and work on the things that because when Pluto hits your life, you notice stuff about yourself. You can't help but not. And if you didn't notice it in those early years, you were forced over this era to really look at yourself and look at how you are in the world and the darkness inside of yourself. That is never usually people's most fun moment, when they look at the darkness within themselves. So you may not have enjoyed some of the Pluto cycles that were going on since 2009. That made, there were moments that have been hard where you really had to look at yourself and feel. Pluto is a feeling. It's a feeling of reckoning, and reckoning with the parts of yourself that you're not so fond of and that maybe you wanted to work on. And then if you did work on them, that's where you get the kind of good karma of, and I'm using the word karma very loosely here, but the true gift is the work you've done on yourself, and the honesty with which you've dealt with stuff that you've seen and noticed about yourself that you wanted to work on, that you wanted to change. And I know there's this big, because I'm in the coaching industry, I know there's like this whole backlash, like, oh, you don't need to work on yourself, you don't need to be better. And I agree that in terms of your value as a human being, there's no better to be. You're already, from birth to now and for the rest of your life, you have high value throughout your life just as you are. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about your essential worth, that you have to be better and worth more. We're talking about the spiritual path that we all walk, whether we want to, or whether it's fashionable, or whether we want to fight against it and rail against it. We, despite any trend, are on a spiritual path that we can't leave. And so there can be trends for personal transformation, trends against it, backlash against personal, whatever. We seem to be put in this world to do some kind of spiritual walk, whether we believe in a God or not. It doesn't matter what you believe, you're on this path. There's just some stuff, there's a lot of stuff we can decide how we react to situations, we can decide, choices that we make. We have a lot of agency and freedom to make choice. What we don't have the freedom to change is that we are walking this karmic wheel somehow, and that there's some kind of lesson that we're supposed to be learning that seems to have a spiritual component. And you can like it or not, but that seems to be the way it is. And so those are the types of lessons you've been learning, and they've been deep because it's been Capricorn, and they've been hard because it's been Capricorn. They've been emotionally devastating in some cases and isolating in some cases because it's Capricorn. But there's also been this huge opportunity to build yourself back up. Capricorn's all about building and the long-term plan. So some things you set in motion over the last however many number of years. Math is not working in my head right now, but since 2009. So it's been a longish cycle. You've been building and building, and some things when you build stuff under Capricorn, it lasts. So Pluto and Capricorn, if you started building certain things, you're seeing the fruits of your labor. And under this new moon that's so strikingly conflated with this Pluto cycle, you really get the sense of this threshold and a whole era ending and a whole era beginning. But you can look back if you've been building and made choices that are healthier, maybe, or stayed committed to certain plans, and maybe not all plans, but certain plans, where you did stay consistent and build. You really see the fruits of those labors. And so, and again, it's more than likely, because it's Pluto, it's in more than one area of life where you had a chance to rebuild in several ways. And yeah, if you've really tried to not make the same mistakes, if you've kind of faced your own darkness and tried to make different decisions as a result, then there's the gift by the door that's very deep. And it may be something that nobody else sees, but you feel it's in here. And so be ready for pleasant surprises, interesting relationships. And again, whenever I say relationship, I mean, the whole spectrum of relationships, but certainly romance is also indicated here. So it's interesting, and we are in interesting times, and there's magic, there's a sense of mystery, there's a sense of surprise, and you're going to see it in the world. We've already seen it. We can point to the summer in the election cycle. There were so many bizarro surprises and interesting outcomes, just so interesting and strange, but in many ways good. And so this will continue, but in your own life, you can look for it on a smaller level. Think about yourself. What is delightful? Be looking for the delightful. Be looking for the delightful surprise, the pleasant surprise, the unexpectedly sweet, nice. Maybe money's involved. Some money coming in, or a relationship, an unexpected friendship coming in, or just any old thing. But be on the lookout for these things, because there's some delight and surprise and the kind of miraculous mystery of life that at play here. There are bigger forces at work, and the best you can do is to just learn from past mistakes, missteps, things you just don't want to repeat, and make different decisions, right? That's the control we have in life. And then we can't control a lot of other things, but we can control our choices. And so that's the best you can do. Nothing else is required of you. You are perfect as you are, yet we are all on this unexplained pathway that religion tries to explain to us, but I don't think it always grasps the whole mystery of it. We are on this path to learn something and to grow and deepen spiritually, whether we like it or not. So where have you deepened? Where have you grown? Honor that. It's a time to honor it and see it, and recognize that while things have been hard over the last, I don't know, 15 years or so, things may have been rocky at times, really hard at times, but look at the stuff that's grown. Look at the stuff you've built. Look at how you've changed, hopefully most of you in a good way. And what's deepened, how much more spiritual are you? What's happened to your spiritual path? Are you better in relationships? Have you developed better relationship skills, better money skills? What lessons have you learned in those two areas? Because money is definitely indicated here. So financially, how do you see the world of material goods and your ability to earn? Are you better at managing money? Um, Attitudes around material possessions and money have changed. Your fortunes may have changed several times over. But hopefully you're seeing some good here right now. If you're not, there is some kind of still something to learn, and just look at it that way. Just try to be like, okay, this is a tough lesson. I'm going to learn, and this won't happen again. Whatever is going on for you. But overall, I say we can take a deep breath around Pluto. It's just a little kind of closing of the door and an interesting exit by coming, by not exiting, by coming back. And this is not uncommon either for a planet to leave a sign and then come back briefly and then go back out again. It's like this kind of sweeping, like making sure that threshold is all cleaned up and that you can lay the past to rest. And really see, this is a great moment to reflect with all this retrograde stuff, to really reflect and see like this is, the past was this, and here's my future, and to truly take it in. So use this time, these 3 months, to just really take in all of that, and you'll be then nicely ready to move into this new era, which is going to be very different, very, very different. All right, take care.